I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about JD Vance and some comments that he made at a Turning Point USA event about his wife and how they manage having a relationship and a marriage where two people believe two different things. And some folks got really upset, really, I guess, the Hindu community, because he wants his wife to convert, which seems very strange to me. And as he notes in his comments, it seems like anti-Christian bigotry. If you are aware of anything about Christianity, you know that it says that Jesus is the only way. You are free to not believe that, but if that's what we sincerely believe, it just makes sense that we would proselytize to try to help people know God and know the truth and to one day get into heaven. So some people were mad at JD Vance about that. So that was kind of fascinating to me yesterday, saying that. And also Kamala Harris is also claiming that she wanted to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, which I find to be hilarious because Kamala Harris did not end up really doing any media until like 40 days into her campaign. And the more people got to know Kamala Harris, the more people just really didn't like her. And they were trying to hide who she was. And I think that's why she was avoiding media for a while. And she could never really get over the fact that she's Kamala Harris, So we'll be talking about that and some other things as well. Yesterday, I was not live, obviously, because I was on TV in Lansing, and Lansing is in the middle part of our state, and I live on the other side, in the southeast. So it's like an hour and a half, and the commitment that I had to be there was like 2:30 to 3:30. And we had a little like book signing and stuff afterwards at like a coffee shop. So I was just busy that day, and I don't like to not do my show, but hopefully you guys forgive me for that. And if there's time, maybe I'll pull up the interview and play it. It's about a 4-minute segment. So me and my youngest sister Tina were on Wilkes Studio 10, which is a local show on an NBC News affiliate program, and they just asked us questions about our book, and we got to promote our book, and the interview was really nice. And I got some good reviews for it too so far. And I read one of them to my sister as we were driving home, and she just started crying. She's like, "I'm crying, but I need to see." So yeah, I'm excited about that. Excited to share that. So before we jump into the news, I do want to make a couple of announcements. I have a lot of busy things going on in my schedule for the upcoming week. So I'm going to have things I plan to play and schedule. But as of right now, I'm going to need to take like a vacay, I guess. I'll be streaming next week, Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. But on Thursday and Friday, I won't be streaming. And normally, I guess that following week is like Comic-Con stuff anyway. So I'm like not available usually this time of the year anyway. But there's lots of neat things going on. But I'll try to have some content for you guys to still like check in, not be like full like hour-long podcast, but like maybe 10-minute videos that I've edited and other things like that. Maybe one or two of them will be an hour long. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm still going to try to have content for you. Also, I had to move the painting classes that we were going to do. So the in-person one is going to be on the 22nd, and the online one is going to be on the 23rd. So that Saturday before Thanksgiving and that Sunday before Thanksgiving. So hopefully that gives you guys some more time if you want to participate and you want to get your own paints or have Tina send you guys paints. But you guys, I had to move the date just because everything was just kind of so hectic. So on the 22nd, of November. That's when we'll have the in-person one. So if you live in the Michigan area and you would like a ticket to the painting class, which you don't have to, the ticket covers the cost of the paints and everything that you'll use, and she'll teach us how to make a painting together. And the online one, you can either have her pay to have her send you the products. You guys can go get your paints and everything yourself. And it'll be like a Zoom kind of class, and she'll teach us how to paint a pretty picture. And they last about like 90 minutes. So it'll be really neat. And hopefully you guys go ahead and decide to do that. But I did have to move the date. So I just wanted to let you guys know that the Facebook page has been updated for like the Facebook event, and also the tickets and the link on her website. So yeah, just want to let you guys know. Hopefully you guys can hear me fine today. I am in my sister's studio while I'm here because her paintings just happen to be, she did a live stream the other day, I think. So I'm just going to pick up her paintings and just show some of them, if you don't mind. So she does these little teeny tiny paintings. So that's a neat little kind of beach scene. Oh, I think she painted these on Tuesday. Obviously she had to paint these on Tuesday because she's with me yesterday on Thursday. So there's a nice little kind of another beach scene. Here's a little mountain. And here's another little mountain. I think out of the four, because she always asks what's your favorite one. I think that one's my favorite out of this batch, but she has hundreds of little teeny tiny paintings. So I encourage you guys to go to tinastextportraits.com and check out something really cool. Of course, Tina is my artist who did my book for Bigger, did the illustrations on that. So if there's time, I want to play the interview that we had together at the very end. I'm not going to like interrupt the news portion. I'll wait to the tail end of that, but we had a good interview. So anyway, let's start with this. Oh gosh, where should we start today? Let's start with Kamala Harris, because I was I saw this. I was scrolling through a little bit of TikTok when I was going through like a walk this morning, and I was just like I think I was on my way, like looped back, and I saw it on TikTok. I just decided to open up kind of to check where my views and stuff were, and it was one of the first things that popped up. This snippet of her on the CEO Diaries or podcast or whatever. And she was talking about Joe Rogan and how she actually wanted to go on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I just wanted to record right then and there, but it was just kind of loud outside. And I was just baffled at the lies these people tell. No way in a million years do I believe that she wanted to do that podcast. Unless she's just that naive about her capabilities. I do not believe that her entire staff was just like protecting her that much, like and she was just oblivious. I think she knows that she because they hit her for like 40 days before she did anything with the with any interviews and stuff. So let's hear her talk about this. But I just had thoughts. So I already posted a TikTok about it. I posted something on Facebook about it, but we're gonna say some more thoughts with you guys. So let me just give me 1 second while I share my screen. One day I shall have a producer. One day. Okay.
I wanted to do Joe Rogan's show. I think podcasting is a very powerful medium for people to get information. And to your point, a lot of people, that is a main source of information. And it's important for us to support that.
Joe says you wanted him to come to you, which is very un-Joe-like in terms of he doesn't really travel. In hindsight, do you wish you'd gone and done the show for 3 hours at his studio, in hindsight?
Really, it just would be what were we giving up? I wanted to do his show, and a lot of people advised me not to do his show because they assumed, as it turned out to be correct, that he was supporting Trump. and that it would not be a productive piece for me. But just like when I went on Fox News with Bret Baier, my perspective was they may have their bias, but there are people that listen who are open-minded, and I'm going to go there and give them a chance to get to know me and give me a chance to make my case to them.
Okay, so as I already mentioned, for the first 40 days of her campaign, it was just like 104, 7, 8. I don't remember the exact number, but it was just 100 days and some change. That's all she had to like be the candidate and run for president, right? And the first 40 of those days, she was MIA as far as her doing interviews. She was out there doing like campaign, kind of like stump stuff here or there. But as far as her sitting down with a journalist, them asking her questions, she was not doing that for 40 days. And she really didn't have a ton of interviews after that. But if she just wanted people to get to know her so badly, then why were they dragging their feet the first 40 days? I understand that campaigns are a lot of work and you want to have the right messaging, but she's already the vice president of the United States of America. She's already ran for president. She's done campaigns several times already. So to me, it just shouldn't be that difficult to get like, I don't know, policies up on your website and, you know, other things like that. Just something for the American people. It shouldn't have taken that long to sit down and have a conversation. But it's obvious to me that the reason why she wasn't doing anything for so long is because they were hoping that the American people didn't get to know her. They were hoping that the American people didn't have to realize that she had all these radical policies as far as the border, as far as LGBT issues, as far as abortion, and that she could, the economy, I thought some of her stuff on the economy was just really, really bizarre. The more she talked, but she didn't want them to know that about some of the things that she had said that she had. And I don't understand why this wasn't a major deal, but like how she had signed on to an amicus brief during the DC versus Heller case, which essentially meant that she believed that we don't have a private right to own firearms. So if the court had their way and she had their way, your Second Amendment would basically be very stripped bare. Okay. The whole thing about the illegal detainees. CNN like broke that story with a survey that she had filled out. So CNN, believe it or not, like really blew her spot up there. But there's plenty of stuff that she said on the border and immigration when she ran, and plenty of stuff that she has said about abortion. Still, even on the campaign trail when she ran, she wasn't very ashamed of that positions on that. So her campaign would be asked about certain radical positions that she had. And then someone, not her, would say like, oh, well, she changed her mind about those things. Those aren't her positions anymore. But can we hear it from the candidate? Can we hear why she changed her mind on these issues? And we didn't really get that. I don't believe she changed her mind on those positions. I think she just wanted to trick the American people. Just kind of like, I have a video going around that's getting pretty viral about Obamacare. And I played a clip of the Obamacare architect because I mentioned the shutdown. I mentioned SNAP benefits. I'm like, these Democrats have always lied to you about Obamacare. They're keeping everything hostage to try to get these subsidies. But Obamacare actually wasn't really designed to work. And they really shoved it through thanks to the stupidity of the American voter. And that's what the architect of Obamacare said himself. It was a scandal at the time, but a lot of people on TikTok are young. They don't remember that kind of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I played that clip and talked about it. And that got around. I put it on Facebook. On Facebook, my TikTok, it has 100,000 views. On my Facebook, it has 400 and some thousand views. And I saw other people started reposting it on X, and I don't know what other places. A friend of mine messaged me today earlier. She's like, I was listening to my favorite podcast on Rumble, and then I heard a familiar voice. And she's like, you're famous. So that's going around. But I think one reason, not just because it's timely and everything, that people are sharing it is to remind people that they benefit from voters being misinformed, not informed, whatever. The less information the voters have, the better off the Democrats are going to do. That's the shtick. So she didn't want people to know her. More people getting to know her was a problem. And people say, oh, she needed more time. No, they had enough time. She probably would have been better off if the campaign was shorter, to be honest. But the more she talked, the more evident it was to people that she wasn't doing too hot. At first, when she was the nominee, there was a bit of a high of, oh, it's not Joe Biden. And then it's like, oh, crap, it's Kamala Harris. And then to bring up that her staff was like, oh, well, Joe Rogan, we think that he's going to support Trump. Okay, well, Elon Musk is the one who convinced him to support Donald Trump. But Elon Musk voted for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden the last time around. So I think it's a very powerful testimony of someone to be like, okay, I voted for these people and they let me down for X amount of reasons. And Donald Trump, if we don't stop these crazy people, Elon Musk would say civilization's going to end. Like, we're going to be on the brink. Okay. That was the kind of rhetoric that Rogan was, spouting and stuff. So, I mean, not Rogan, I'm sorry. Elon Musk was spouting and telling people and having, conversations with Rogan and other folks. So Rogan isn't some kind of Trumper. He was a Bernie bro. He had so much respect for Barack Obama. And during the campaign, when Obama tried to push the debunked, very fine people on both sides hoax, he's like, oh my gosh, Obama is a liar. Now, we all knew that. But Joe Rogan got to learn that. And Joe Rogan got to tell his audience that. And eventually, a lot of these Democrats, they will see that a lot of these politicians have been lying to them. They've been two-faced. And Kamala Harris, I don't believe that she wanted to go on that show because a 3-hour podcast would have exposed her. If they really wanted to do it, they would have made it work. They got all these rallies with all these celebrities and stuff. They can make stuff work if they want to make it work. They weren't motivated to do that. And they weren't motivated to do it because she cannot advocate well for herself, because one, she just kind of lacks the skill. And two, there's nothing worth advocating for. Nothing worth advocating for. She had bad ideas. She was very radical. One of the most damaging interviews she had was with a friendly on The View, when Sonny Hostin just asked the question, how would you be different than Joe Biden? What would you do differently? And she botched that question. It was a change election. She's the vice president, and she botched that question. She screwed up. That was a layup. I think that's how Sonny described it. It was a very typical question, not a hard ball at all. And she totally screwed up. Donald Trump, they would just post full unedited videos of Kamala Harris and say, we just dropped our new attack ad, because she was that bad. She was that bad. So I don't believe these people. I can believe that her people didn't want her to go, that they thought it would be bad for her, that they would think that Joe Rogan would be biased, and that he was more toward voting for Trump. Well, you could have made your case. When I ran my sister's campaign, when she's running for chair of the Michigan Republican Party, my sister could flip people within like a 5-minute conversation. And it's a long story about how that ended up going, but let's just say both candidates were from the same side of the state, and the side of the state where we're from, we won those votes. We won those votes. The more people got to know my sister, the more they were more inclined to vote for her rather than the other candidate. You should be able to convince people to support you if you have the resume and if you have a vision. She has some qualifications, as she's done stuff in her state, and she was a senator, and also she's a vice president. But what has she done with those roles? What kind of policies did she push forward? And what's her vision for the future? She's not a good advocate for herself, again, because one, she's just bad at it, and two, she's not worth advocating for. So that's the problem. Joe Rogan could have had a conversation with her for an hour and a half or 2 hours on cooking. They could have talked about how she loves to cook, if she really washed the greens in the bathtub, things like that. Her childhood, her family. Could have shown like a different side to her. Joe Rogan was not going to grill her on politics. That was something I was actually concerned about. Like, I figured she'd do bad one way or another. But if she actually came on the show, I'm like, what kind of questions would Joe even ask her? Because he didn't want to like eviscerate her. And by the way, if Joe Rogan can eviscerate you, I think you have probably really stupid opinions. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to Joe, but he's just a guy who likes to talk, but he's not a political commentator. If you are a professional, you're the vice president of the United States, if you could go on Joe Rogan and he could ask a couple questions like, I don't know, what is a woman? If that's going to trip you up, you probably shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Like, I've seen him like really trip up people on like the trans issue and stuff, but they hold very silly positions. So she shouldn't be doing this stuff if she can't sit across Joe Rogan. Was that really going to be harder than Bret Baier? And by the way, Bret Baier on Fox, that was an adversarial like interview, but she had a lot of things that she needed to be questioned over, especially on the immigration issue. But Bret Baier is one of the most professional people on Fox, and he will grill. It's not just he will grill Democrats or something like that. He'll grill people on the right. Like, I did a video at the time when her interview with Bret Baier came out, and I showed clips of his interview with Donald Trump. He had some brutal, like, things to quote at Donald Trump about how Trump hires, like, the best people. And then he was like, okay, you said this about this person and this person and this person and this person, and now they're saying this stuff about you. Like, he had receipts. So I think it's very unfair to be like, oh, when Bret Baier did my interview, oh, he was... I understand that Fox leans right. I understand that. But every person on that show is not a commentator. Sean Hannity is a commentator. Bret Baier is actually a journalist. I'm not saying that Sean isn't doesn't do journalism, but Bret Baier is a journalist. When they had those Republican primaries, some of the questions they were asking, like, dear Lord, why so spicy? So anyway, long story short, she couldn't hack it. Let's finish watching out this clip.
So that was my perspective on Joe Rogan, just like it was my perspective on Fox. There was a lot of games being played around the scheduling, and it didn't happen. And, you know, I don't have anything against, certainly not against the people who turn on to Joe Rogan and would love to be able to talk with him in a direct manner, as I wanted to during the campaign.
Do you, in hindsight, wish you'd just put your foot down and said, I'm going to go do it?
I don't know if it would have made a difference. But yeah, no, I wanted to do it. So let me just say that, right? So I wanted to do it, and it would have been great to do, and I think it would have been helpful to do.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's just, I mean, the issue, it was really about what's the trade-off in terms of votes and where I spend my time. Do I spend my time traveling for 5 hours and back versus being for that period of time in a swing state? Mm-hmm. And that was the trade-off.
I guess it goes to the point.
So it wasn't about I don't want to do Joe Rogan, or believe me, at that point in a campaign, it's not about, oh, is somebody coming to me or me going to them? I could care less about that. Pride is not associated with it.
I think that's to say, like, oh, is it worth that time to be there in the swing state and whatever? Didn't they go? Were they like in California for an event around that time? Like they could have made it work. They could have did like another impromptu stop or something like that. You know, they could have made it work. If she went on like Call Her Daddy podcast, she went on Shannon Sharp's show. You know, so and she didn't. They actually like spent a lot of money to build a like set for the Call Her Daddy podcast. They shouldn't actually like go there or whatever. But yeah, they could have made it work, and they could have tried to find ways to utilize their time even while they were traveling. You know, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, I just at the end of the day, I don't think that they wanted to do it. And she said there was a lot of games with the scheduling and whatnot. Joe Rogan, they've told different stories about how things went down. And I trust Joe Rogan's account of this situation. And at the end of the day, I just don't think that they really wanted to do it. And they could have been accommodating as far as them going to his studio. It's his platform. And they would have gotten millions of views. I would have tuned in to watch it. I would have assumed it would have been a train wreck a bit. So I would have watched it. But you know what? Even if it wouldn't have gone well for her, people would have respected the fact that she went on. It didn't make her. She very much doesn't seem ready. And I know maybe that seems silly to some people because it's like the person who's president right now is a game show host, right? That's what some of the things they say about Donald Trump, though he was president before. But and she was the vice president, a heartbeat away from being the president of the United States. How could she not be ready? Well, when you're too afraid to go on a podcast, you seem not ready. You seem not, when you're avoiding the media for 40 days, knowing that you have to do press conferences and all kinds of things, it seems like you're not ready. When you're the vice president, you have to do multiple reboots and resets or whatever because your image is kind of so bad. It seems like you're not ready. I mean, we've had bad presidents before get up there and do whatever. So I guess in that sense, you know, sometimes maybe it doesn't matter if you're ready and you get the opportunity, you get the shot. But thank God she's as bad as she is, because I think other people, there could have been some real opportunity for Donald Trump to lose. But she was like the worst of the worst.
It is more about.
It is literally about return on investment.
Okay, and this goes to our point about efficiency earlier.
Yeah, like exactly right.
To be fair, I don't think it probably, unless you just like hit it out of the ballpark. I think she's kind of correct that it probably wouldn't have made a difference enough. I guess it would have depended on what they talked about and what she said, but I guess it maybe could have begun to kind of change the trajectory. It just kind of would have depended how everything would have snowballed if she had a successful interview. But I think it's most likely that she would have bombed it.
There's only one candidate.
Mm.
So where am I spending my time to get the greatest return on the investment?
If I was in charge of your campaign, I would have 100% put you in that environment. And even when I look at the
and let me just, I guess, where I'm saying, where would I be best suited to go? I don't think rallies. I know campaigns do them all the time, but they are such time suckers. They are such time suckers. I've been to a lot of Trump campaign rallies and other rallies and things like that. I've sung at 3 of them for the national anthem, and they are. Especially the Trump ones, people stand in line in the morning to be able to go in. They wrap around the building. You fit all these thousands of people inside, and you're there like all day. And unless you're like VIP and you don't have to get there as early, and you can get like a special entrance into some kind of way or whatever. And but you're still there for a long time. Trump will likely be leaving one place really late. When that last campaign stop when we were in Michigan, I mean, I live in Michigan, but it was on the west side of the state. Maybe it was in Grand Rapids or something. And he we were at the place waiting for him, and he hadn't even got on his plane yet. Like, and that's not an unusual thing. Like, he'll be he does multiple stops, boom, 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 you know. And sometimes he's delayed, and the people will sit there and they will wait. And that's time that people could be knocking doors. It's time that people could be making phone calls. It's time that all these different people could be doing stuff, but they're sitting and waiting. And you get people excited and revved up. A lot of these people are going to vote for him anyway, because if you're there all day waiting all these hours, I'm assuming your mind is kind of made up. Sometimes people do go to those rallies to learn more about a candidate. But they are time suckers. People, and Kamala Harris, she's like, okay, I can have another event. Let me bring on Cardi B or something. Well, people are going there to hear Cardi B. I know people like on TikTok and different places are like, I went to this event. I'm a Republican. I'm voting for Trump, but I wanted to hear this artist. So even though she was putting on events, I don't think those events in the long term served her. I don't think like doing the work on the ground is how you win. Like just calling up people do to make phone calls to get money for donation. That's a lot better use of your time, which she could have done on a plane on the way to Joe Rogan. So it doesn't make any sense. And maybe that's a different kind of view for people, because again, people do campaign rallies all the time, but they are such major time suckers. Just even getting out of the venue with all the traffic takes so much time. Parking, so much time. So there's not an event that she could have put on that would have been more beneficial than going on Joe Rogan. Nothing. The only thing that could have maybe been better is if she had another debate with Trump and just shellacked him. And I think she actually did win in that first debate. Don't stone me, but I did not think that was a good debate for Donald Trump against Kamala. It was a good thing Joe Biden like melted in the first debate, but yeah. I didn't see this next part. It goes up to 3 minutes. So let me see what else the rest of this
trade-off. In part because someone like me, and I consider myself to be like genuinely really objective.
Yeah.
And my friend's name is being extreme, not just objective on camera, but objective in my personal life. Yeah. When you see a certain environment present someone in a certain way, you really like the thing that can burst that bubble is seeing that person go into that environment. And like when I saw you on Fox News, I watched that interview as well. Yeah. I actually think it strengthens your supporters, and actually those independents who are in that space too can get a feel for you. So I would have loved to see it. And I actually I hope in this next election cycle, when is it, 2028? I really would love to see both sides going to both sides. And I actually think that's happening now, going into those environments. I do also tend to think that Joe would have been fair.
Well, that's why I wanted to do it. I had to assume that was possible. And either way, he's very popular.
I would have loved to watch that interaction.
I regret that we didn't do it. I definitely regret that we didn't do it.
Okay. Yeah, she, at the end of the day, she's not being held hostage. She wasn't being held hostage. It was her campaign. If she wanted to go on Joe Rogan, she should have made it happen. She'd have been like, schedule it. Like, we're doing it. Joe was like, I would have did it any time. Could have been middle of the night. Like, he would have been ready to go. All they had to do was fly to Joe Rogan's studio. And if Donald Trump was a president of the United States and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll head there right now. So miss me with that, ma'am. Okay, so I want to. Oh, JD Vance retweeted somebody, and the post is unavailable. I wonder if that's the post that I retweeted and replied to. Let me see. So I want to talk about JD Vance and something that was very controversial to a lot of people, because he was he was at a Turning Point USA event, and people did not like him talking about how he wants his wife to become a Christian. Which, if you are a Christian, why wouldn't you want someone you love to be a Christian? That doesn't make any sense to me. But let's listen to his answer, and then I'll read you some responses.
Yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not in a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But, thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priests who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can, and that's what I try to do.
So I know that was pretty quiet, that video for me, so hopefully it was loud enough for you guys to hear. But he was asked about how to make interfaith marriages work, and his solution was to talk to each other. At the end of the day, you got to talk to each other. And the thing that was so offensive to people was that he said he hoped his wife would see things the way that he sees them, and would find what he found in church, and would like for her to become a Christian. That video was so non-controversial. There's things that I could pick on JD Vance about. I was very critical of him the other week. And this is such an insane controversy to me. But people are very upset about it. And most people, I would say the Hindu community. And I don't know how many people are actually like American commenting on this stuff, because it's a global app with X and stuff. But there was a writer from the Free Press who decided to talk about this. So she said, imagine if Usha had said, I hope JD finds his way to the Hindu faith. She wouldn't, because Hinduism doesn't proselytize. We believe there are many paths to truth. I only wish JD had said, I respect her faith, because that, after all, is at the heart of Christ's teachings. Jesus's teachings were that he's the only way. Why are all these people trying to make up who Jesus was? Like, we're doing a woman's Bible study tomorrow, and I'm leading it, and we're going through the book of John. And so everybody read John and stuff. And so I was taking all these notes and stuff. It's very clear. Jesus said, I am the only way. And you don't have to believe that. Like he said, you have free will. My wife has free will. At the end of the day, she has to make her own decisions or whatever. And they're going to love and respect each other and stuff. But he wants her to come to Christ because he believes in the gospel and he believes what Christ actually taught. And the reality is that Jesus is the only way. So being offended that I understand that the Hindus, they don't really proselytize. And she said that there are many paths to truth. This is what really doesn't make sense. If there's many paths to truth, which can include, I guess, Christianity, according to the Hindu faith, why are you offended by a Christian man saying that he wants his wife to become a Christian if they can still find a pathway to truth by pursuing that pathway? Because JD Vance doesn't believe that. JD Vance believes that there's only one way. There's only one path. So doesn't it make sense that he would proselytize to his wife and other people around him and try to convince them to come to Christ, to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior? Does it, like, if you're going to hedge your bets, there's a Christian singer named Keith Green who passed away a very long time ago, but he wrote some really beautiful music. One of the songs, When Your Love Broke Through. But you can find an interview of him online. And Keith Green was asked about his, how he came to faith. And he had studied all these different kind of religions and walked all these different sort of paths. And he's like, okay, well, this religion says this and this and this and this. Basically, they all allowed room for Jesus or said nice things about Jesus, but Jesus is like, I'm the only way. So if you're hedging your bets and you're going to pick a religion that's like, you would pick Christianity. You would pick Christianity. I mean, Islam directly tries to refute Christianity, whatever. Those two can't coexist at the same time. But if the Hindus accept that there's another way to truth, and you can perhaps pursue it through Christianity and still arrive at the end of the truth, then there shouldn't be a problem. You shouldn't be offended. So I just, if you want to talk about respecting people's faith, it just sounds like people don't respect JD's faith. But I really don't respect people trying to say, well, you need to teach what Jesus taught. Jesus did not teach to respect everybody else's faith. You talking about, just read like the Old Testament with them tearing down idols. And there was one like idol they tore down and made a toilet out of. Like, No, that's not how it works, bro. It's not how it works. She also had another tweet that followed. She decided to bring up some verses. Let me see my my sister said the early church was surrounded by polytheism and was persecuted for it. They did not like that they were teaching and preaching that there was only one way to heaven. Yeah. So they were weirdos. We're teaching that there was only one way and only one God. So she tweeted under her retweet talking about JD Vance, and this is a writer for the Free Press talking about Barry Weiss's Free Press. I believe that's Barry Weiss's. Yeah, Barry Weiss, who just became, it might be Weiss, but she just took over as like the head of like CBS, and the libs are really upset about it. But she brought up Mark 12:31, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. If you're loving your neighbor as yourself, from JD's perspective, okay? JD grew up in a very difficult environment. His mother was addicted to drugs. He was hanging around some bad people, and eventually he got his stuff together. He moved in with his grandma, His grandma took care of him. His mom eventually got clean. But he grew up in a rough situation, ended up rising to where he is today. He was in the military. He, went to college and stuff and did very well for himself. He had that kind of Christian background, but he didn't really believe. He was agnostic. People are like, oh, well, why did he marry her? She grew up with a family who was religious in the Hindu faith. And I'm seeing like conflict. He kind of was like, oh, she's agnostic or whatever, and her family wasn't that religious. But there's other stuff where she's talking and they're saying that they were. And there's reporting that they were, and that she was still practicing as a Hindu or whatever. So there's conflict with that stuff. But anyway, JD and her, obviously the religion wasn't very important to him, and they got together, and it ended up becoming something that was important to him. I have heard her talk about how she appreciates how it has helped him. So it's been a good in his life. So if it's been a good in his life, why wouldn't she be okay with it being a good thing in the lives of her children? I mad respect the fact that she goes to church with her kids and her husband, even if she doesn't really believe the same thing. And I pray too that it impacts her heart. Because it's so funny that people are upset about JD and his comments, because when I saw other conversations with them about their interfaith marriage, I was like, bro, you better be like trying to convert this woman. Because if you're not really trying to convert your spouse, like how much can you love them? How much can you love God? Like you can't like just sit up and like let somebody you love like go to hell. Like I'm like, I hope that's that's his end goal, what he's really pushing for. So I was encouraged to see him say, yeah, I want her to go to church, and I hope that it impacts her and she ends up converting. So it's just funny to me, all these people are offended because I didn't think JD Vance was like demonstrating that he was Christian enough. And so I kind of breathed a breath of relief, and they're like, oh my gosh, how dare you want her to go to heaven one day. But anyway, it's been a good in his life. He believes it's the truth. So if JD was introduced to the truth and it's radically transformed his life for the better, why would he not want that for his wife? If we're just going off of the love your neighbor as yourself. And I love that people quote that as if there's not a verse above that, as if that's not the second greatest commandment. And the first one isn't to love God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul, right? So if you're loving God with all your heart, you're going to be obedient to his commandments. You're going to, not be conformed to the ways of the world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You're going to want to go feed his sheep, right? You're going to want to go participate in the Great Commission and defend your faith and proselytize if you love God and if you love your neighbor. So people who are just picking verses to just throw out there, it's always annoying, but you're a writer for a paper that's trying to set itself apart and be different. So there's that. Do not judge or you too will be judged. I love when people quote Matthew 7:1 as if there aren't other verses that follow that one. That chapter is about how to judge righteously. The Bible is not you're not supposed to judge book. You can't it's not for you to judge whether someone's going to go to heaven or hell, right? That's above your pay grade, but you can discern, you can know a tree by their fruits. Like you're supposed to judge. There was an entire book called Judges. Like, what are you talking about? You really don't think that you're supposed to be like, I want that person to go to heaven. Let me witness to them. That's crazy. Why'd she even quote this scripture? And I don't know why she quoted Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Does she just think that means that everybody who's a peacemaker gets to be a child of God? That's not how it works. Is it because, you know, he should just accept how the dynamic of their household is? Because it sounds like they have a peaceable kind of situation and agreement. Because like he said, you talk to your spouse, keep the channels of communication open. But they would be in greater peace and unity if they were all on the same page as far as all being Christian. And her being like, hey, the kids can go to church, they can be baptized. The kudos to her. Kudos to her, seriously. So yeah, all these people being so offended is so interesting. JD Vance did respond. Let me pull up a couple more comments from people, because it's just baffling. If you don't have to agree with Christianity, you don't have to believe in it, but you, as Penn Jillette, who's an atheist, he said, I don't respect Christians who don't proselytize, because if you believed that there was a truck barreling down and about to hit somebody, at some point you push them out of the way. And he's like, and this is more important than that. He's like, how much do you have to hate someone to not proselytize? And I agree with that. If he loves his wife, he should want her to go to heaven. And JD Vance didn't make the rules. JD Vance didn't make the rules. Vance's public remarks cast his wife's faith as a kind of problem to be fixed, a soul yet to be moved. It's the image of a husband proselytizing the woman who has only ever supported him. She gave up her career for him, trusted him enough to make 3 children with him. This feels like a betrayal dressed as piety. So stupid. The thing that JD Vance is, he may have been great so far as a husband, but he feels the pressure now the closer he gets to the Oval Office. And instead of standing up to it, he's bending. Rather than defending his wife's dignity, he's giving into the noise, treating his wife's faith like a political liability, all while trying to please the MAGA base that treats it like a revulsion blot. So revulsive blot. As a husband and a leader, he has a responsibility to do better, but he is recklessly monkey balancing at best, and at worst joining in on the religious harassment of his own wife. It's a terrible look. It reeks of weak morals and tacit betrayal in love and in leadership. That's stupid. Sorry, that's stupid. As a man who is a Christian, first of all, if you are not married and you're dating someone and you're not on the same page about religion, I don't recommend that you stay together. Sorry. You should work that out before you tie the knot, because there's going to be all these questions about how you're going to raise your kids and all kinds of different stuff. Now, sometimes, and many times is the case, that people will find faith while they are married. And I've heard many a story about women who've had to really pray heaven down when it comes to trying to get their husband saved. And some of them have gone through just the ringer with unsaved husbands, even being cruel to them. And in times it works out and the man gets saved. And I think it's more likely, a more likelihood that if the man finds Christ, that the family will follow in his footsteps. But it is his responsibility as a father, as a husband, and as a Christian to proselytize his household and to train up his children in the way that they should go. So when they're older, they will not depart. Like, he's doing what he's supposed to do. You just don't respect his faith. You just don't respect his faith. And you can be mad that you don't think he respects her faith enough, but you can respect people's free will, which he does. You can respect that people have strong convictions. You can respect certain aspects about people's faith, or their beliefs or their ideology or whatever. But as far as it being something that separates people from God and is going to lead them down a path of damnation. Why should I respect that? No, I'm going to proselytize. I want you to convert. Like, let's be upfront about that. Like, you can be offended, but it's the truth. Like, I hope all of you watching convert if you're not a Christian. I hope that's the case. Like, I've made some Muslim I don't know their viewers or whatever, but they found my page because I commented on Candace Owens and when she read the Quran the other day. So I'm arguing with some Muslims in my comments, and they're just like, the Bible's been corrupted. I'm like, when? How? And so I'm going through the Muslim dilemma and all kinds of different stuff. I'm not going to shy away from what I believe to be true, what I know to be true. And we can debate that. We can talk about it. And I can proselytize, you know. But if you're just uncomfortable, you're just uncomfortable. And I'll try to be respectful. We'll have a respectful conversation. We ain't got to be loud. We ain't got to be rude. But, you know, I want you to find the truth because I love you. It's not about me being so self-righteous and pious and whatnot. I'm an introvert. I'm an extreme introvert. Like, witnessing that is about a love of God and a love for my neighbor. If I could just be like typing on my computer all day, writing a novel or something and like not talk to people about this stuff, that would be fine. But God's had to like peel back those layers and push me forward in a lot of different ways. So anyway, there's more. There's a lot. Actually, JD Vance publicly cast his wife, Usha's Hindu's faith as a problem to be fixed. A soul. He's repeating what this other person said. Yeah. And so I'm retweeting these people. I'm like, why shouldn't they go? Why do you not want her to go to heaven? Or why should he not want his wife to go to heaven? This is from a Hindu convert. Why did I become a Christian? I grew up Hindu, but one day I sat down and wondered where my morals came from. Things like don't lie, or innocent children shouldn't be killed, or don't steal, or even adultery is wrong. Certainly not found in the Gita or Ramayana. No, they are morals found in the Bible. And when I met Indians who had not grown up with any influence from traditional Western culture through literature or art, they were far more okay with all kinds of sin, lying like they breathe, stealing if they could get away with it. 90% of Indian aunties I met admitted to having had an abortion. I was disgusted. Then I realized I was blessed to have had some exposure to a reflection of the light. And when I went in search of its source, though it indicated me, indicted me, though it was painful at times. After I had my first child, I realized I needed it in order to confidently raise my child with a sense of right and wrong. So I got baptized. Why am I saying all this? Because for 48 hours, I've been receiving a hate barrage from Indians saying I betrayed my heritage. Sorry, I don't want a heritage of sin. I'd rather make a new one, go cry about it to someone else. So I retweeted that post. And that's the last one that I had from there. So I do have JD Vance's hold on, let me find it. But JD Vance did comment on this. And good on him. There we go. I passed it. So whatever tweet that was there earlier someone removed it. So I don't know if I screenshot it. Let me check real quick. I don't know if I screenshot it. I might have. It looks like I did not. I did not. Okay. What a disgusting comment, and it's hardly been the only one along these lines. First off, the question was from a person seemingly to my left about my interfaith marriage. I'm a public figure and people are curious, and I wasn't going to avoid the question. Second, my Christian faith tells me that the gospel is true and is good for human beings. My wife, as I said at Turning Point USA, is the most amazing blessing I have in my life. She herself encouraged me to re-engage with my faith many years ago. She is not a Christian and has no plans to convert, but like many people in the interfaith marriage or any interfaith relationship, I hope she may one day see things as I do. Regardless, I'll continue to love and support her and talk to her about faith and life and everything else because she's my wife. Third, posts like this reek of anti-Christian bigotry. Yes, Christians have beliefs, and yes, those beliefs have many consequences, one of which is that we want to share them with other people. That is a completely normal thing, and anyone who's telling you otherwise has an agenda. He's right. He is absolutely right. It is just a part of our faith that we spread the gospel. It is the Great Commission, and it is a responsibility, not just of your pastor, not just of the deacon, not just of this sister passing out fans in the back of the church. It is everyone's responsibility. Everyone's responsibility. If you are just living a Christian life and you are keeping it to yourself, you are not living a Christian life. You are supposed to spread the gospel. That doesn't mean that everybody has to go on the mission field. Well, not like overseas or whatever, but the world is your mission field. You don't have to ever get up on a pulpit. You don't have to ever go overseas. You don't have to do it. You don't ever have to lead a Bible study, but you at some point will have an opportunity to tell someone about the goodness of Jesus Christ. And that is normal. That is commanded. So anyone pretending like it's not the teachings of Christ or that JD is betraying Jesus or the religion and it's so unnatural, so strange, they just don't care to know the gospel. They just don't care to know it. And if it's fine if you don't, but you cannot comment. You cannot comment. So someone said, love everything you are saying. If you love people and trust in Jesus Christ, the Savior, you must warn others, as we know 100% of us will die. Yeah. So I'm praying for JD, for his family. And I pray that when she goes to church, that something will stir in her. And that she will make that conversion, because I think that's good for his family. I think that's good for her. And I think that is good for anyone who converts. And I know that people have said some terrible things about JD because he has a brown wife, because she comes from that religious background as well. And it will probably be also very terrible for her if she does convert, and people will say that she's a traitor, and they'll, come for her and come for him. But the most important thing is you need to seek the truth for yourself. You need to seek the truth for yourself. I wonder if I can find that Keith Green clip really quick. I mean, I know I can find it on YouTube. I'm just trying to see if I can find. This is probably the clip right here. Let's see.
And Yom Kippur and Passover.
Yeah.
That's it. and Yom Kippur and Passovers, that's it, And so I'd go to Seder's, which is the practice of the Passover feast and the dinner with the bitter herbs and the matzah and the lamb and all that stuff with relatives, and I didn't understand what was going on, because I wasn't brought up really in anything but metaphysics, which was
mind over matter.
Yeah, just positive thinking and no doctors and the whole thing, and so when I was about 16, I rebelled against everything that I was brought up in because it was so confusing. I didn't really have any kind of a base, a foundation, because I was brought up, they were telling me that I really didn't have a body, and, although I clothed it and fed it, it wasn't real, and I was just walking around going, what am I doing here, So I went the whole route of the young people today, and especially then on the West Coast, into the drugs and Eastern religion and meditations and yoga and all these different things that I figured were going to satisfy me, and they did for hours or days at a time. But then I'd always come down and, go, well, that didn't do it. Because I always knew that when I'd find true happiness and peace, it would last.
And so you were just always searching.
Like crazy. Yeah. And I searched with my whole heart. And in all the Eastern religions and all the cults and all the world religions, they always gave some credit to Jesus Christ. The Muslims say that he was a prophet. The Christians say that he was an incarnation of the Godhead in his age. Yogananda and all these different Eastern teachers said that he had Christ consciousness. They always use words like Christ consciousness, Christ this, Jesus that. The Buddhists would even say he was a Buddha. He was another incarnation of God like Buddha was. And in all my searchings, I saw that all these people were pointing to Jesus. They're going, well, yeah, Jesus is one of the ways, but we're one of the ways. And they wouldn't all agree on anything except that Jesus was one of the ways. And then I looked into the Bible in John chapter 14, I think it is, or John chapter 6. Yeah, it's 6. Where he says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one gets to the Father but by me. So they all gave him credit, and he only gave himself credit. And I went, well, that kind of eliminates everybody. They all say he's cool, and he says he's the only one that's going to get you there, so I guess I'm safe. So I started praying to Jesus. I did this all through intellectual reasoning and laid it out on the table and figured it out that if they all gave him credit, and he only gave himself credit, and they all agreed on one thing, that he was one of the ways, and he only agreed that he was the only way. So I figured I had no choice but to go with him. And then I started praying to Jesus.
Wow.
Was that another trip for you? Like you, in reading your
2 years.
biographical sketch, you'd gone through you're a child of the 60s, eh? In some ways.
Yes, and the early 70s.
Yeah, and you've done all the experimentation, whether it's the mind trip, the chemical trip, and so forth. At what point in your relationship with Christ did it all of a sudden occur to you that it wasn't the same as the other trips?
In 1973, I started praying to Jesus. In 1975, I was born again. I went through an experience called the baptism of the Holy Spirit in May of 1975.
Oh, okay. Well, there's the rest of the interview. Keith Green's incredible testimony. Someone's got it on YouTube. I knew you could find it on YouTube. I just wanted to play that short clip for you guys. So, yeah. Made a good point. So all these people saying, well, we don't proselytize because we believe there's multiple paths. Okay. The most logical thing to do is to be a Christian. The most logical thing to do is to be a Christian. So go and do that. Anyway, we're a little over on time, but I think I'm going to go ahead and play. I told you guys at the very end I would play my interview. Let me see if I can find it real quick. From yesterday. And I will post it on Facebook. They didn't have it on Facebook. They have it on YouTube. So I won't repost it on YouTube, but it was a fun experience. It went so fast that we didn't really take any pictures and stuff. Well, we took one picture when we were done with our interview. And so I had like pulled it from their website, but I was going to like do it in the green room. But there was other people in the green room too. So I just thought it'd be a little weird. So, but we have the video. So there, we know that it happened. We know the interview happened. So this is my segment yesterday. This is why I was not live, because we had an interview for my children's book. I also have an interview on Monday morning that's going to be on the Steve Gruber show. And we'll see what other media that I can get going. But this is about my children's book, and I'm being interviewed with my youngest sister, Tina.
All right, well, on Studio 10, we love to look brighter and better and, of course, bigger. And you can join us now by picking up the new novel that is titled Bigger. It's written and illustrated by this lovely sister duo who is sitting with us right here today. For today's Ask the Author, let's welcome Christina and Tina. How are you, ladies?
We're good. Thank you for having us.
Yes, well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing our lovely dinosaur friend, too, as well. We should have had another chair, but you know what? He's standing up all right. But the major theme of this book, Bigger, is that it celebrates family, imagination, and love. So you got to tell us both, as the author and illustrator, what will readers find when they pick up this book?
Well, they'll find some good life lessons about how, children, they have all these dreams and their aspirations, and sometimes you can get a little out of hand.
Yeah.
And you need your parents to kind of guide you back a bit. Yeah. So at first it was just a story about how the baby dinosaur, he wants to get bigger. And just kind of organically, as I was writing, it got to the end, and the mom was just like, look, you are good the way that you are. There's a line, in my little arms, you're small enough to hold. If you're too big for hugs, then your heart will grow cold. So that's one of my favorite lines, especially since they're dinosaurs, they have little tiny arms.
Yeah. Okay, and let me tell you, even as an adult, I definitely relate to that. All the dreams, aspirations, sometimes they just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's what you need as a parent to kind of reel you back in. But now that you mentioned the dinosaur, of all the animals in the world that you can pick up, why did you choose this one?
Honest to God, don't know. I mean, kids like dinosaurs. Yeah. I just got the ideas at Applebee's one night with my sister and her son, Daniel, and he was little, and he just kept saying bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the idea just really came from that. And so when I'm inspired, the ideas just kind of flow out.
All right, and the ideas got bigger too as well. Yeah. Now we've got Tina, sister over here. Now you are the illustrator. How did you truly make these graphics, these pictures come to life, not just here, but really in the book?
Well, Christina had an initial sketch that I was working from, and at first I was really intimidated because she went to art school and I was self-taught, and when she asked me to do the illustrations, I was like, okay, are you sure? Yeah. But I kept working on it and working on it, and I looked at a lot of dinosaur bones and tried to break down the structure. I'm like, how do you draw a dinosaur? How do you make it soft enough for a children's book that it can be replicated over and over and over again? And then I was like, you know what? Dinosaurs kind of look like ducks.
Okay.
And so I simplified the shape, and it really just came to life. And I just looked at ducks and chickens, and then it came to life like that.
That's right. And I see a little bit of that duck in there too as well. Now, you both are sisters. Can I ask who's older?
I'm older.
You're the older one? Okay, well, I'm in the middle, but I am older in a sense.
I'm in the middle of 7 children.
Okay.
And I'm the last of 7 children.
Yeah.
So then how do you guys work together? Do those family dynamics kind of play in there? Is it whatever Christina says goes because she's the older one?
Well,
how does that work?
It's my book, so it was whatever I said goes. No, but Tina's always been my biggest fan. This is actually my 19th published book. Yeah. And my very first published book was also a children's book, Super Kid. And one day I went to the mailbox and I saw it in the post office. I'm like, why is this here? And she was with me, and she was like, I wanted to buy your first copy. So she's been with me all over the country, helping me do my tables at different conventions and so on. So we often travel together. And so she went from a fan to, doing the book with me. So
look at that. Well, I can clearly see the family dynamic, the relationship between the two of you. I know what that's like when you have your sister who's truly your biggest fan, but I do want to talk a little more about your family because you paid tribute to your mother, who unfortunately passed away as you guys were creating this book. Did that even bring you closer together than you thought you could? And how did you guys navigate that loss?
It was very difficult because one day I was sitting next to her making the illustrations for the book, and then the next day she was gone. But we both paid tribute, her with the tribute page, but also I saved some flowers from her funeral, and I actually made that into paint pigment, and I used that in the book as well. And so it did bring us closer together, but it was very difficult because it was very sudden.
One of the first things I thought about, like when she passed, was that line, the last line of the book about it's never time to leave your mother quite yet. And we just immediately started crying. So every time when someone would read it in the family, they would start crying too. You know, her mom lived to 101, and her grandmother lived to 102. So we thought we'd have another 30 years with my mom, 30, 40 years or whatever. So it was a shock, but she always encouraged us, you know. So I'm glad that the piece of her can still, you know, live on.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that I love the most about speaking with authors is that what you write down in these books never goes away ever. And the fact that you've incorporated your mother's legacy into this just shows you how much she's living on with everybody who opens this book. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining us here today. But the story doesn't have.
Yeah, and that's the interview. So it was a good interview, and I was very glad for the opportunity and more opportunities to come. And if you guys are interested in the book, there's a link, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, in the description of the video that will take you to my book website where you guys can purchase a signed copy of Bigger if you would like that. You guys can get it paperback or you guys can get it in hardcover. And there's also a link if you want to support Black Tea to donate and some more stuff about like the painting party that I mentioned earlier. But that's the show for today. Please go to blacktees.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream from my side. All that good stuff you guys can support. I very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. Oh, thank you. Said the dinosaur is adorable. I do love the dinosaur. I was so glad that we painted that cutout. I was so happy because I really wanted it for our book signing. And so Tina's like, but we're so busy. I'm like, it'll take just an afternoon. We could do it. So we got like those trifolds that you use for like science fair projects or whatever. And we got 2 of them. And I you know, like use a projector and traced them. And then I started painting, and Tina then hopped on and started painting too. But yeah, I do still like love my initial sketch, but baby is so cute. I love him. And so thank you. I look forward to signing your book for your toddler. And thank you, John. Oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that about your dad. I'm sorry to hear that about your dad. When my mom first passed, people were saying, you know, things like it never kind of, I don't know, it never really kind of gets easier, I guess. Like it always kind of stays with you a bit, and it wasn't very comforting, but oh my gosh, I can just say your strength is in the Lord, and you find other things to kind of cling to. Like I was at a Comic-Con earlier in May, and I was telling one of the other vendors that my mom had passed. And so he's like an only child, and his parents are older. I mean, I guess they're like upper in age, and then they're I guess he has some aunts or uncles or whatever, but they're all also very up in age too. So he's very concerned about grieving alone. So even the fact that that you have other people to grieve with, you know, you find the silver lining out of life in different sorts of ways, and just try to honor the people who have passed. And, you know, I keep pushing forward. She was very, you know, supportive of our art, of our writing, of Black Tea. So I got to keep, you know, pushing forward and keep working toward the goal of also getting to heaven and being where she's at. So, you know, it's just sad because you miss them, but if anyone's up there, she is. So She ain't got to deal with ghetto earth no more. we down here still got to deal with the ghetto, you know. But thank you for all of your kind words and your love and wanting to get the book. So again, there's a link in the description that'll take you to my website. blacktnews.com, of course, is my website where I do all my media and stuff. But my book website, let me just pull it up before I let you guys go, is ninjadustpublishing.com. And again, there's a link in the description. I'll take you to where you can buy the book, but that's my book website. So yeah, thank you guys, and be safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. We're going to have a short kind of week next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if nothing goes awry, streaming, and I have some things to do, so I won't be streaming on Thursday and Friday. And so I'll try to have some different things plotted out for you guys, different kind of videos, and still be posting here or there. But as far as like a big live show, we're going to have a short week, so we'll try to make it count. I'm sure the news will be juicy. The tea will be piping hot. And just make sure that you're here back on Monday. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do this weekend. God bless you. And I'll see you on Monday.